Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Laurel Chibumeri Nwokike, and on this channel I talk about opportunities in the health sector here in the United Kingdom. So are you a nurse who's living abroad and you want to come into the United Kingdom to work as an abroad or overseas nurse? Then just know that there are videos you can watch here on my channel and there are opportunities right there for you. Or you are living abroad and you want to come in as a carer, there are opportunities waiting for you here on my channel. Just watch one or two videos and begin to tender your applications. I'm sure you're going to get one. So let's jump into the main focus of today's video. In this video, I'll be sharing with you guys how I answered 4 interview questions here in the United Kingdom and got my first job as a carer here in the United Kingdom. So when I came into the United Kingdom, I was already focused and I knew that I wanted to start work immediately. And for me to do that, I knew I also needed to start applying for jobs, right? So one of the first things I did was to start applying for jobs. I applied to NHS, private care homes and what have you. So I got an interview slot with NHS and I attended. Now it was far from my home, but I had to go. And I wasn't so sure if I was going to work there or not. But for one reason, I just wanted to go for that interview and know what it was like to be interviewed here in the UK, because it was my first time doing an interview in the UK. And I will also let you know that I got my first job here in the United Kingdom in less than 3 weeks. I arrived the United Kingdom. Yes, in less than 3 weeks I arrived the United Kingdom. I started my application and before I knew it, I was called for an interview and I attended the interview. Now, there were 2 interviewers on the day of my interview, and the 2 of them asked me 2 questions individually. So in total, I was asked 4 questions, and I'm going to share with you guys the answers that I gave to those 4 questions. And guys, I got the job. I got that job. I knew before I left there, I knew I was going to get the job. I knew because my interviewers were so impressed. I impressed them. And one of the interviewers was the person who called and she was so happy. And she said, no, let's go right into the questions and I'll come back to what she said. So guys, the first thing I was asked was this. I was told to introduce myself. So she said, let us know more about you and how your experiences and skills will be beneficial to our organization. Now, this is a question of introduce yourself. Tell us more about yourself. I know you've already filled about you when you were doing your job application, right? When you were applying. So guys, of course, you may have written down everything about you when you did your application. But I also know that there are certain things that you did not talk about when you applied. Now this is an opportunity for you to tell your interviewers more about you. So you might want to start off by introducing yourself, telling them your name, right? So you tell them your name, and when you tell them your name, you talk about your age if you want to, and then you talk about your qualification. Do you have a degree or a diploma or anything? Just let them know about your qualification. And then you may also include your grade. What did you graduate with? You can also include that, because I did, I included them. And then you can talk about your skills. Now I studied geography and planning at the S&Y institution. However, I try to link the care skill. I tried to talk about it when I was talking about my skills. I didn't concentrate on the skills I acquired as a geographer, right? Because that is not important in this role. So I had to talk about skills that I naturally have. I'm caring, I'm compassionate, I'm kind. I love to serve other people and also like to solve problems and help people. And then when I talked about those skills that are natural to me, I had to talk about my experience in that place. I had to talk about my grandmother that I took care of when she was sick. I talked about my grandfather that I was caring to. I talked about my dad that I looked after when he was also sick. And then I also linked situations where I have shown help to other people who are not related to me. For instance, I had a little girl that was being abused by her mom, and I stepped in when she told me, and I made sure that her mom stopped abusing her. I'm not going to go into details about that, but I did certain things that brought an end to the abuse that she was facing by her mom. And yes, I gave that as an example. I said there was a situation where a little friend of mine was abused by her mom, and she came to me and she confided in me, and I looked into it and make sure that was stopped. And also talked about my church, where I helped. I organized a group and we raised up money and helped the children department that were suffering. So those are points that you can make. Where have you helped people? These people want to see someone who is a natural helper, a natural carer, someone who is compassionate, someone who is kind, because you're going to work with people. So you have to give them examples where you've done this and that and the other one. And then you have to talk about your weakness. What are things that you don't have strength in? So the first thing I did was to talk about my strength, and I said I'm very hardworking. Whenever I'm working, I make sure that I finish that work, and if that work is not done, I'm not gonna stop. Now in the weakness, I said because I am very hardworking, I try to find a balance so that I can have time for my family. So this is something that I'm working on. And when I said I'm working on making out time for my family in as much as I'm very hardworking, I gave an example, and I said, for instance, I've already planned a summer vacation that I'll be attending. I'll be going on with my husband. So I'm creating time to have fun with my family, despite how hardworking I am. Now, the next thing you may want to talk about is your hobby. I talked about my hobbies. What do you like doing? I love nature. So I love to take a walk with old people. For instance, my dad, my grandmother, my grandfather. So when they were alive, my dad is still alive. When my grandmother was alive, I'll take a walk with her because those are things I love to do. And if you're going to work in the care sector, there may be a time when you will need to walk around with these people, right? So those, I included that. I said that's my hobby. I love to cook, and maybe you may have a need to cook for someone, I don't know, depending on the sector you've been working. So I talked about that, and these are really my true hobbies. I love to take a walk. I love to cook. I love to read. So these are things that I love doing. And then I've talked about the experience, right? And then what will you bring to the table? What will you bring to the team? So you may round it up in summary and say the skills that I have as a natural carer makes me qualified for the role as a carer in your organization, right? Because you've listed out all these skills. Now, the next thing you may want to talk about, the next question that I was asked is this: what will you do when a client who needs to be turned in the bed refuses your care? Now, let's say that you're in a situation where a carer, where the person you're caring for needs to be turned, and you go to the person and say, okay, I need hello sir, hello ma, I need to do this, and the person refuses for you to care for that person. What will you do? So I responded and said, in a situation where the person I'm supposed to show care refuses care, the first thing I'm going to do is to ask the person why. I will ask why. Why is it that you don't want this care? Let me know the reason why the person is refusing the care. And then the person will tell me the reason why he or she is refusing that care. And then I'll go ahead to reassure the person the need to be taken care of. And if after reassuring you, the reason why you're supposed to be taken care of and the importance of care, and you still say no, I'm going to document it down and escalate it to my manager. Listen to the terms I'm using. So if the person I'm supposed to show care to refuses my care, I'm going to ask why. That's the first question. I'll ask why. That was my answer. Why are you refusing the care? The person gives an answer. I encourage the person by telling the person the importance of the care. And if the person still says, no, I don't want this care at this time, I go document it and escalate it to my manager. Let my manager know that this care was not offered because this person refused the care. The most, and I went further to say the most important thing is for who I'm taking care of to be cared for. So I will make sure that I document it so that it will be there that this was not done. And I will escalate it to my manager so that even if I'm the reason why the person doesn't want to take care, like the person doesn't want that care from me, let's say the person doesn't want the care from me, the person can get that care for another person. So this is something you can say. First, you want to know why. And secondly, you have to encourage the person, let the person know the importance. And thirdly, you document and you escalate the matter to your manager. Now, the third question, tell us how we would know you have taken care of a patient. So when I was asked this question, I took a pause because it was not so clear. And I answered and I said, okay, first thing, let's say, how would you know I have taking care of a patient, right? And I started and said, the first thing I'm going to do is when I go to care for a patient, I'm going to go into the patient's room and I'll introduce myself, and then I'll let the patient know what sort of care I'm in that room to do. Let's say it's person-centered care, right? Good. I want to clean you up. I want to bath you. So I'm going to tell the person I'm here to give you a bath. And then if the person says yes, go ahead. I'll say, okay, I'll close the windows and I'll close the curtains. I'll make sure that I respect the person's privacy, right? And then I'll begin to take off the person's clothes. And while I'm doing that, I'll make sure that I'm not undressing the down part of the person. I'm making sure the person is also covered, because the privacy and dignity of my patient is of great importance to me. Mark the words I'm using. Privacy, dignity, of great importance, right? And then when I'm done caring for my patient, taking care of the patient the way I've said it, the first thing I have to do is privacy. Close the curtains, close the windows. When I'm undressing you, I'm not exposing every part of your body. Privacy and dignity of my patient is important. So I'm going to make sure you're covered. And as I'm cleaning you up, I'm covering the part that I've cleaned up. So I'm respecting your privacy and your dignity. And afterwards, I'm going to document what I've done. I'll document it down. Now, when you come in and then you look at the record of the patient, you're going to see right there that, yeah, I've taken care of this patient because what? I documented it. So the reason why I brought it down was so that they know that I know how to take care of my patient. So I started by taking the steps that I'll carry out in taking care of my patients. And then I went down to the answer and said, yeah, and I'll document it. Now, documentation shows that I've done this work. So when someone goes through the patient's record and sees, yeah, this has been done, it shows that that has. So that is how you show that you have taken care of a patient, by documenting it. So make sure you document everything that you do after caring for a patient. Now, the last question that I answered, or that I was asked, is this: how do you control infection? How do you control infection? So the first answer that I gave, listen, I have so many answers. So the first thing I said was, one, I will make sure that I do not come to the hospital sick. So whenever I'm sick, I'm gonna call in sick and stay at home until I am well and ready to resume work. The second thing that I will do is to make sure that I wear self-protective gadgets. self-protective gadgets when seeing a patient. 3. I will make sure that I dispose self-protective equipment properly. I will make sure that I dispose self-protective equipment properly. 4th thing that I will do is that I will make sure that I wash my hands after seeing a patient. The 5th thing is this: I will make sure that I wash my hands properly after being in a patient's environment. I may not have been the one caring for the patient, but let's say I was in a patient's environment. I will make sure I wash my hands, and I'll make sure that I wash my hands regularly. I'll make sure I wash my hands regularly. I'll make sure that I do not touch my face while I am in the hospital, put my hands in my mouth or any part of my body. And then the last thing that I will do is that I will make sure that I follow the hospital's infection control method or guidance. Now this was exactly how I answered, and my interviewers were just nodding their heads and nodding their heads. Now, after that, I was asked, do you have a question? And I said, yes, I do have a question. So I read in the application form that there will be transport incentive, and I asked, I have 2 questions. Number 1, okay, I think I asked 3 questions. I asked, number 1, could you please tell me more about the transport incentive? And they just did not have a good answer to that. They said, oh, we don't know much about that, we don't use it, but when you come in you will get to know more about it. I said, okay. Number 2, can you tell me ways in which a carer can progress in his or her career? And they were surprised, and they said, okay. One of the interviewers could not even give an answer. I threw her off guard. And then the other person said, okay, I will say you start by taking your certification serious, and then after that, if there are other opportunities you want to venture into, you go in and you study and get it. And there are opportunities that the hospital can help you out with, and if that's what you're interested in, you just have to find those opportunities by yourself and see ways that you can get them and climb in your career. And then the 3rd question I asked was, please, when do I start? So I asked, when do I start? I knew I was gonna get it. And they said, okay, if you're successful, we'll give you a call by the end of the day, and if you're not, then we're sorry, you just have to try somewhere else. I said thank you, and I evicted the building. And 2 p.m. that day, I got a call saying, we want you back. I got the job. So guys, if you're interested, I'm going to share other questions that I was asked at a second interview that I attended that same week, and that's exactly where I'm working. So if this is what you're interested in, do let me know in the comment section, and I'll share with you the questions that I was asked over there and how I answered them. Thank you, and do not forget to subscribe, like, drop a comment, and share this video. Bye bye. I wish you all the best.